Hello, everyone. It's Ellen Lumpkin Brown, and I'm happy that you're able to join me this afternoon. I'm the owner of Sew It Workshop, and I'm going to be showing you how to make this cute little pillow. It's the sea monster pillow, and it was for summer reading. I know summer reading is done now, but I think we had an electrical storm or something earlier in the month when we were supposed to make it. So we're going to make it for you now. And I'll explain all the steps. Now, just know that you're also going to have through the library the written instructions for how to make the pillow, and you'll have access to this video as well. Okay. So first of all, I'll go over what we need, the supplies to make it, and then we'll get started. Okay, so first of all, you will need, of course, a needle. Okay, and I like the kind with the long eyes on them just because they're easier to thread. And you'll need some thread, just regular, ordinary thread. You'll need a little bit of craft cord or embroidery floss. That will be so that you can really see nicely the stitching. But if you want to have matching stitching that doesn't show, you could just use regular thread instead. Okay, you'll need a little bit of stuffing. Okay, and this is polyester fiber fill. You can use this, but I'll show you some other things that you can use to stuff as well. You can get that at Walmart or any place. Then you'll need a few pieces of felt in colors that you like, some small felt, and one bigger piece for the sea monster itself. And then you need a few pins, okay, and they can be any kind of pins. You can get these from the drugstore too. And then you'll need some fabric for the back and the front. Okay, this is going to be what I'm going to use for the front, and you can use denim or anything that's dark. It's supposed to look like the ocean, right? And then for the back, I'm using an old sheet that I've cut up. Okay, so that's going to be for the back. Need one piece of each, and the sizing and everything, all the measurements are in the instructions. So you don't have to write them down, but just so you'll know, that one is 9 by 12, or the size of a piece of printer paper. Either one is fine. One's a little bit smaller than the other. Okay, you'll need a ruler, okay, and something to mark with. I'm going to use a Sharpie just so that you can see it, but you can use chalk, you know, anything that you have, a pencil, it's fine. Okay. And I just wanted to show you, because I had one patron who said, a young student, that she didn't have any stuffing for her pillow. So I just wanted to show you that this sample that I made, I'm going to open it up for you. So I've got some stitching up here at the top, and just open that so that I can show you what's inside of here. If you don't have the polyfill, look what is here. These are just plastic bags from stores, right? And you probably have a ton of these around the house, Target, the grocery store. So you can stuff these with those too. So don't worry if you don't have the polyfill. Don't run out to the store to get some. You can just use plastic bags. And it will take more than you think that you can fit in there, so get plenty of them. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to put the camera down so that you can see my workspace, and we'll go from there. Okay, one thing, there we go. Oh, well, first, let me show you. The first thing that you would do is in the back of the instructions, you're going to find the pattern for the monster and the features, the eyes and everything. That's going to be in the back. And then There are illustrations on how to make it. But you need to take that back piece, and the first thing we're going to do is cut this out, okay? And we're going to cut it from the paper, and then we will begin working with our fabric. Okay, so now I'll put the camera down. There you are, you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so we're going to cut this out, and we'll just cut on the solid black line all the way around. So I like to do it like this. I cut along one side, then I'm going to turn here, and you just want to be more or less close to the line. And then I cut the whole thing out. And then I'll come back and I'll get the smaller pieces. Okay, come around. And then across. Okay, and now we're going to cut out these other pieces. So, like this. And just relax. Now, I'm using scissors that are pretty sharp because they're designed for fabric. If you only have scissors that are for paper, it's going to be just fine. But when we go to cut out the monster itself out of the fabric, out of the felt, you'll probably cut a little bit slower just because your scissors are not designed for fabric. Okay. And then we have the one little piece left here. So just cut your way around. And you can just turn it whatever way is most comfortable for you. Okay, there we go. So now we've got the sea monster piece, and you would do the same thing for the other pieces, the eyes and the mark on the forehead of the monster. Then you're going to grab your felt, okay, and we'll put the pattern on the felt so that we use the least amount of felt, right? We want to keep everything so that we don't waste. And we're going to pin this on. Now, let me make this a little bit smaller just so it's easier for me to work with and for you to see everything I'm doing. Okay. So I'm going to fit this onto the felt, and I will pin the paper to the felt. Now, let me show you how I do it. This is the sharp part of the pin. That part is not sharp at all. So you take the sharp part, push it through the paper and the felt so that it comes through to the other side. And then you bring it up like that so that the head of the pin and the tip of the pin are all on the paper. Okay, and then we'll do it again up here just to hold it in place. Now we're ready to cut this out, and I'm going to cut it the same way. Okay, just come down one side, and then I'm going to cut the bigger part of the monster out first, and then I'll come and get the smaller pieces. Okay, and again, if you have paper scissors, just go nice and slow, just relax. Okay, so now we have the little pieces left to cut out. And around on this side, and I will cut around and kind of meet where I ended off. Okay, 2 more little pieces, and then we're done with this part. Okay. And lastly, right here. Okay, and don't worry, I'm going to come back for that. It's just easier for me this way. I don't know why, but it feels easier. Okay, a little bit of snip there. Here. Okay, and now finally, that last little bit. Okay, so now we can take the pins out. We don't need them anymore. Okay, and I've already cut out 2 eyes and the forehead mark and the center of the eye. Okay, so I've already cut those pieces out. So then I'm going to take my dark fabric, the denim or whatever you have, okay, and let me put it so you can see the corner, okay, and then I'm just gonna fit the monster. This is really supposed to be a kraken because it's mythical creatures, right? But I fit it into the corner right there. And then I'm going to see how I like the eyes and forehead and all to look. So I'm going to do a little bit of testing and see what I like best. So there goes an eye. There's another one. Okay, and then I can put on the front part. And here you can have some fun. Like if I wanted my monster to be looking down, maybe I would do it like that. If I want it to be looking up, I could do it like that. If I thought it was seeing something coming from the side, right? I could do it like that. But I think I'm going to do mine cross-eyed. Okay, that's going to be my monster. And then I have the little forehead piece, which I'm going to put right there. Okay, so now I'm going to pin these in place so that they don't move around. Or another thing you could do is if you wanted to take a picture of it with your cell phone, if you have one, you could do that too, and then you would know what where you put everything. But to pin it in place, I'm going to do it the same way that I did before. I'm going through both eyes. The pin comes out the other side, right? And then I'll bring it up like that. That will hold that in place. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Through all of the layers and then up. And one more for the forehead. There we go. Okay, and so now this is not going to move while I'm sewing, so I can leave that in place. And we're ready to sew as our next step. Now, in order to sew, we need to have a needle with some thread in it. So I'm going to show you how to thread a needle. I'll put the camera back up. And I feel like nobody was born knowing how to do this, so I always show how to do this too, pinning and threading. Okay, hello again. Okay, so you're going to take your needle. I have a big needle here. This is actually a doll making needle, but it's got the big eye that I can show you how it works. And then I have this nice bright green craft thread or floss. And this is the sharp end of the needle, right? And here's the eye up here. So you're going to take your thread and just push it through the eye like that. Okay, and then you'll pull it through, and you want to have 2 strands of thread that are about the same length. Okay, so there's the needle and there's the thread on it. Then once you have that, we have to make a knot at the end of the thread so that our stitches don't come out while we're sewing. So you take the thread to make the knot, wrap it around your finger like that, then grab the bottom of the loop that you'll get, hold on to that, take the ends of the thread and just bring them through the loop like that and pull. Okay, and then you've got your needle threaded, you've got your knot, you're ready to sew. Okay, so let's get started again. So I'm going to put my camera back down. Here's our monster again. And I have some needles that I've already threaded. So I'm going to grab one of them here. Okay, this one has a nice blue thread on it. And to sew this on, we're going to sew right around the monster, kind of near the edge. So I'll start right here so you can see. And I'm going to start on the back of the fabric. Okay, so I'm putting my needle in through the back, and I want to be near the edge. There, I like that. Near the edge of my monster. Okay, so I'll put the needle in and pull it until the knot stops the thread. You can see there's the knot on the back. Then I'm going to go over a little bit, put the needle back in and push down, and I will get my first stitch. And it's going to look like that. And then I'm just going to continue around, going up and down and up and down, just trying to keep the stitches about the same length and the distance in between each stitch there about the same length too. Okay, so you just keep going. Okay, and I'm getting to this little curve here. So just go around. And just keep going up and down. And this stitch is called the running stitch. It's very natural feeling, and you can kind of just relax as you do it. It's the stitch that most people, even if they don't know anything about sewing, or they think they don't, they still kind of know this stitch. They've seen it before, and it makes sense for doing something that will hold two pieces of fabric together, right? Okay, so we're going to continue around. And one other thing that you can do when you're making this stitch, you can put your needle in like this and then come back up like that instead of pulling it all the way down. Okay, so just in and out like that. And it's just another option for you. And you want to be sure that your stitches are nice and flat on the top, and also check on the back. Now it's a little hard to see the blue against the blue, but you can see that your stitches, my stitches there are flat too, right? So I'm going to continue around. Okay. And again, just relaxing and keeping everything nice and flat. And you'll find after you do this for a while that you can actually put more than one stitch on your needle at a time. Okay, just like watch this, in and out and in and out. And then when I pull, I'll have 2 stitches. So that's something that you can do too. And just continue around, okay, until we get to the other side. You'll find you can even do 3 stitches. Just pull your needle through. And each time you can flatten things out, make sure everything stays nice and neat. Now, when you have about, I don't know, 4 inches or so of thread left on your needle, even though you're not finished yet, I want you to go ahead and make a knot on the back so that your thread doesn't get too short and it doesn't become difficult. So to make the knot, you just make a little bitty stitch like that. Push your needle through, and then you'll get a loop. Put the needle through the loop like that, and just pull, okay? And then you can cut your thread, and all those stitches that you made will stay in place. Okay, let's go a little bit further, and then I'll show you how to do the eyes. Okay, I've got some more thread here. Where did it go? There we go. Okay. So again, we're starting on the back because we don't want the knots to show on the top. And I'm going just where I would have gone if I had still had the original needle. Couple of stitches at a time. Here we go. And then just pull. And again, you're just sewing close to the edge. Like that. Okay. And you really will find it just nice and relaxing to do. It's kind of almost like got a nice rhythm, and some people say it's like meditation. I don't know. Okay, just checking to keep everything flat. I'm going to look on the back and look at the stitches on the back in a second. Have a few more. I'll get on the needle and pull. Here we go. Let's check and see how the back is looking. Okay, good, nice and neat. That's where the knot is, so that's not any problem. Nice and flat. Okay, so let's just come all the way around. And another thing that I've done is sometimes I'll have more than one color of thread just because I run out of thread. So I just keep on sewing. I just put the other color on, and I like the way it looks. So if that happens to you, no big deal. Just get another color and keep stitching. Okay. We're almost to the end. Flatten everything out. We'll come up here and we'll probably stop right there. We'll see. Okay. Okay, I'm going to do a few more stitches. And then I'm going to make my knot, even though I'm almost to the end. I'm going to go ahead and make my knot because I don't want to have too little thread. So if you have too little thread, it's really hard to make your knot. Okay, so same thing that I did before. There's my little stitch. Push my needle through, and there's my loop. But see how much smaller the loop is now? I can barely get my needle through it. So be careful that you don't get your thread too short. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and pretend that I've sewn all of this all the way around and this little area here, right? And now I'm going to sew on the eyes so that you can see how to do that. I have some black thread so that it'll show up nicely. There's my knot. And we're going to do the same thing. We'll start on the back, and I'm going to start on the inside eye, anywhere near the edge of it. Okay, and then I'm just going to sew around. And by this time, you'll have a pretty good idea of how to do this. So it'll go quicker and quicker as you sew. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take the pin out now. I don't need that anymore because the stitches are holding my eye in place. Okay. So I'm going to make a few stitches around the inside eye. Okay. that. And then I'm going to come onto the back of the fabric, okay, just like we did before, and make a knot. Okay, this black is really hard to see against the blue, but all my stitches are nice and flat, so that's the other reason that you don't see them. So there's my loop. Put the needle through the loop and pull down. Okay, and there are other ways to make a knot too. Maybe you know another way, but that one is the one that works for me. Okay, now I'm putting another knot at the end of my thread. And I'm going to do the outside of the eye. So I start and bring the needle down, and then the same thing, just following the edge. And I'm going to do a few stitches at a time. Okay, nice and flat, nice and neat. Okay. And we'll be done with this part, I think, in no time. Okay, a couple more stitches. And then I'm going to go ahead and make the knot again on the back. Okay. Now, I think you get the idea. So I'm going to, okay, there's my little stitch for the knot. There's my loop. Needle goes through and pull. I think that you get the idea. You do the same thing on this one, but I do want to show you how to do the forehead mark, right? So I have another needle and thread. Remember I told you I have lots. I usually thread up 5 or 6 needles before I start to sew something so that I can just keep going like this. Okay, so I'm starting on the back and I want to come in kind of near the edge. And then I'm just going to sew this right down the middle. Okay, so I want you to see how that works. So I'm going to go in and out. Okay, nice and flat. And then in and out. And now I can take this pin out. I don't need it anymore. And I like to take the pins out because I don't want to get poked by them. Because remember I told you that end is sharp. Okay, and just kind of imagine that there is a line, a curvy line right down the middle of this, and that's what you're sewing on. Okay, and I think a couple more stitches and this will be done. Okay, like that, and then down, and we'll make our knot on the back just like always. Okay, so it'll look like that. And by now, you know this drill. Little stitch and needle through the loop and pull down. Okay, so we can cut that off. Now, so it's going to look like this. And then let's pretend that I have already sewn this little piece and the eye and the rest of that just to there. You don't have to sew down this side. Okay. Then I'm going to get the fabric that I want to be the back of my pillow, and I'm going to lay it on top of this so that the pretty side or the brighter side of this is touching the pretty side or the brighter side of my pillow. Okay, and then I'm going to make a little line for myself so that I know where I want to sew. And the line, oh, this is cut a little bit. Let me get another one. so that it'll match up a little more. Just give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. Okay, that matches better. Okay, so we're going to put a pin in each corner of the pillow. And don't worry, I know you're thinking, well, why are you covering up the work that we just did? Don't we want to see that? But what we're going to do is sew this together and then turn it right side out. Okay, so I'm pinning it with a pin in each corner. And then I'm going to draw a sewing line for myself that will be about as wide as my finger is from the edge. I'll draw a sewing line with some chalk because I realize my thread is black. So if I use a Sharpie, you won't see it. And I'm good, but I'm going to leave it open on one side. So I'm going to sew on 3 sides, and then we'll leave it open to stuff on the one side. So I'm just kind of eyeballing this. If you want to use a ruler, you can. With the chalk, it's harder to use a ruler, so that's why I'm just doing it by sight. Oops, you can't see that part. There we go. Okay, you just want to be sure that you're sewing, that your line is going to connect both pieces of fabric. Okay, so now let's get started with this part. And now you've been sewing for so long that this will go even quicker than you might think. You'll start at one end, and it doesn't matter whether you start on the top or the bottom. Okay, I'm going to start on the top so that you can see that I'm pulling until the knot stops the thread, right? And now I can take my first pin out, and then I'm just going to sew across with the running stitch, putting a few stitches on my needle each time. Okay, so that time I think I have 4 stitches. We'll see. 5 stitches. No, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Check and make sure that it's nice and flat on both sides. And we're just going to continue across. Okay. Get to the other, until we get all the way to the other side. You'll begin to feel when you're going through the place where the monster felt is, because it'll feel a little bit thicker as you're sewing. But just keep going. And if it feels super thick, then I'll show you what to do. Okay. If it feels super thick, then just go back to doing your stitches up and down. Okay, until you get through the thick part, and then you can go back to a few stitches at a time. Okay. Okay, now I'm through the thick part, so I can go back to doing my stitches like this. And then pull. And again, just be relaxed, enjoy the process, realize that you're making something that nobody else has one just exactly like yours. Everybody makes them, will make the same thing, but they're all going to come out a little bit different. It's the coolest thing about sewing. Okay, we're almost to the other side. I can take this pin out. And I'm going to sew right to the other side, and then make my knot. Okay, so my little stitch, just like always, get my loop and put the needle through it. Whoops, I keep missing it. There we go. Okay, and then just pull. And then you cut your threads. So you'll sew along this line, and then the same thing, cut your thread, make your knot, start again here, and sew all the way to the end. Okay, there we go, all the way to the end. It's hard for me to know when I'm looking at the camera, it's backward from what you see. Okay, so let's pretend like we've done that, and we'll have something that will look like this sample I've done already. Oh, just a second, let me get some of this extra thread out. There we go, so that you can really see it. Okay, so it will look like this. Okay, sewing on the 3 sides. Okay, and then we're ready to turn it right side out. So you will reach inside, and you can see there are the 2 pretty sides, right? There's the monster there. Grab the other side like that, and then just gently pull it right side out. Okay, and there you'll see the sea monster, the kraken. Okay, and you can gently push the corners out. You'll know where they are. That, and then push the other side just with your fingers. Keeping everything nice. Here's one side, and I can go back in and push a little bit more on this side here. There we go. Okay, so now we're ready to put the stuffing inside. Let me grab that. And remember, you could just use the old plastic bags, or you can use polyfill. So since I showed you the the plastic bag, I'm going to show you the polyfill to stuff it this time. Okay, so you get a few handfuls of stuffing, and you're going to push it in all the way to the corners. Okay, just push it into the top and all the way to the corner. Okay. And then grab a bit more and push it in. And a little bit more. I think this is going to be enough. And just push it inside. Okay. It's starting to feel nice and chubby. So now we're going to close it. And in order to close it, you can see the stuffing inside. You turn the edge down a little bit. So here's the raw edge. You're going to turn that down on both the front and the back, right? So the front denim fabric and the back fabric. Turn it down a little bit, tuck it in a little bit, and then bring the edges together like that. Okay, and then we're going to pin that. In and out, just like we've been doing. Same thing. Okay, in and out. And then this last little area here. In and out. Okay, and then we'll grab some more thread, and this time I will need to thread a needle, and I want to show you another tool that you can use to thread a needle. I can find one here. Here we go. Okay, so here's the needle that I'll use. And this little tool is called a needle threader. It has the big silver part and then a little loop here on the end. And I'm putting it over the pillow so that you can see it better. If I had it over the white, you wouldn't be able to see it so well. And what you do is you put the little loop through the end, through the eye of the needle like that. Then you get your thread, and I'll use this bright green again so that you can see it. And you just put the thread through the little wire loop, which is really easy to do, and then just pull it back gently, and that will thread the needle for you too. So that's a nice trick to know. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and make my knot same way. And I hope that you've noticed that when I'm sewing, I don't have a super long thread, because if you do, sometimes the thread gets tangled and then you have to take it apart. So just have a shorter thread, and if you need to rethread your needle a few times, it's easier than having to take something out. Okay, so now we're going to sew this together, and I just want to be sure that I'm sewing through all the layers. I'm starting on the back so that the knots don't show on the front of my work. Okay, and just push your needle through. Go and pull. I can take my first pin out already. Okay, and see how I'm going through both layers of the front and the back. Okay, and push. Just pull your needle. Sorry about that, didn't mean to take it out of the frame. Okay. And I'm just checking to make sure that I'm actually sewing everything together. Okay, because you don't want to go through all of this and then your stuffing comes out because you didn't actually sew the back and the front together. So you want to sew near to the edge to make sure you're getting everything. Okay, you can take this pin out. A few more stitches. And these stitches can be bigger than the other ones if you like, because it won't get too much stress. It'll be okay. Just want to make sure that they're flat. You don't want to have big loopy stitches because those don't hold your fabric very well. Okay, almost done. Okay, here's another pin. You can take it out now. And I would say 3 more stitches. I don't know, what do you think? Okay, and up. Wow, really almost 2 more. Okay, because I do want to stop here so that I can put my needle on the back. My knot on the back. Like that. Here's my loop. Needle goes through the loop and pull. Okay, and then you can cut your threads and you're basically all done. So let me bring the camera up again. Okay, just fluff it up a little bit. And let's take a look. There it is. Hey, the Kraken pillow. So it's a fun project. I hope you'll give it a try. and I'll be sending Miss Nikisha this video along with all of the other instructions that you need in order to make the pillow. So you can just get that from the library if you would like to give it a try. Okay, thanks so much, everybody. Have a good rest of what's left of the summer. Okay, see you next time. Bye-bye.